Welcome to Mind Fitness Warriors, where we are interviewing those who have gone through the deepest valleys of mental health and risen up on the other side, and are here to share their raw and real personal stories and journeys with us about their holistic approach to recovery and a fit and healthy mind. So today we have with us Dr. Renata Tarofsky, who is a naturopathic doctor as well as a mindset and alignment coach. And she has gone through her own personal journey with anxiety and depression and an eating disorder, which has led her to where she is in her career today. And she's here to share her story and her struggles of what it was like growing up with mental health illnesses and how she has been able to recover holistically, and some of the nuggets that she's here to share with us today. So Renata, I am so honored and excited to have you on today's episode to be able to just share your heart and your journey with us. And I'm sure a lot of other viewers can relate to what you've been through. So without further explanation, I am handing the floor over to you so that you can share us and let us in on your journey and take us with you on where you have been with your mental wellness.
Yes, thanks for having me, Jennifer. I love doing these things and I love sharing my story because I want people to see that whatever they want for themselves is possible, no matter how crappy their situation might seem. And so I guess I'll dive right into it. So I struggled with anxiety, generalized anxiety, as well as social anxiety, major depression and an eating disorder, specifically anorexia. And, growing up, I had something called IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. And I think I was always like an anxious kid. I was always worried about everything, but it didn't really impact my life to the extent that it did until I was about 19, 20 years old. And I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't really understand how people could be depressed or anxious, or even women who had like body image issues. Don't get me wrong. Like I was still like, does my butt look good okay in these jeans? But it wasn't until I hit that age that everything kind of flipped upside down and the universe was like, oh, we're gonna help you understand what it's like to deal with mental health. Cause I just thought it was like the strangest thing, how people can feel that way. And then I was pleasantly surprised that it can happen to anybody at any moment due to unforeseen circumstances. But really it was a cumulative series of events that kind of led me to my lowest point. And for me, I was, in university, I was in a program that I didn't really want to be in, but like, you don't know any better. You just kind of go to school and you take some courses and then you're going to go get a job after. But my soul was literally dying. And I was like, I don't want to be studying this stuff. Like, I feel like I'm just kind of going through the motions. And back at the time, I was growing apart from the friends that I was with, and I felt really alone and lost. And when you're 19, 20, all you want to do is fit in, because we all want to connect and be with people. And I was also working night shifts, so my body wasn't sleeping. Like I wasn't sleeping properly. So like, I don't care who you are, you're not going to feel your best. So there was other things that were going on in my personal life that it was just like, it kept piling up. And eventually I hit my breaking point. And I became really obsessive about my weight because it felt like the only thing I can control in my life. Because I felt like everything else was out of my control. I couldn't trust people anymore. I felt lost. And I felt like, you know what? At least I know how much food I'm putting into my body, how much I'm exercising. That gave me the only form of sanity. And I really got why people sometimes experience what they experience. And it's not because I wanted to be skinny, quote unquote. It was a form of control and sanity for me. It was like my lifeline. But I knew it wasn't right and I hated it. And then that kind of propelled what I would say the depression, because you kind of start to lose who you are and you become this person that you never even thought you could be, like obsessing over calories and exercise and like literally being like, I have a thin frame, like 20 pounds lighter than I was, and knowing people looking at you being like, what's wrong with you? And you're like, you think I don't know? Like, and it's tough because you think people who really care about you are the ones sometimes judging you the most. And that's when you really get to see people's true colors. And that kind of then it made me really anxious. So then came in the anxiety. It was really heightened because I didn't want to be in public places because I knew people were already judging me based on how I looked. And I could sense that I wasn't stupid. And then I was just like, I just don't want to deal with the world. So I shut down. I I isolated myself, and I kind of just showed up day by day, going from school, you know, having 90s to 60s. I was just existing. And I think my turning point, I was sitting in this lecture hall at Mac, and I don't even know what course I was taking, probably some boring elective that I had to take because I knew I wasn't impressed by it. And I packed a granola bar that day for lunch. And I remember looking at it and I was like, oh, it's 150 calories. Like, I don't know if I should just wait and eat lunch because, you know, it has this much grams of carbohydrates and fat. And I was like, what the hell? Like, what? Like, this is my life. And it's just like, finally something snapped in my brain that I'm like, I can't go one more day being, thinking, and living this way. Are we still there?
We're good.
Sorry, my screen went black and I was like, no.
I'm like, at the heat of the story.
I'm like, we're just in the middle of it, universe. That I remember going to the doctors, and I want to let you know that I was studying to be a psychiatrist. So I was in neuroscience, ironically, suffering with an array of mental health issues. And I remember going to the doctor and being like, okay, look, I know I'm not well and I want to get well. So how are we going to get me well? And I was very like resourceful. And when there was a situation, I would always look for how can I correct the problem. The doctor kind of looked at me and was like, okay, well, there's medications. And I was like, no, I want to go to a counselor. So I went to a counselor and we just didn't connect. They kind of looked at me like I had 5 heads when I told them that like I was all like, I had the DSM is like the diagnostics for mental health. And I was like, I know I have like all the points for depression, anxiety, and eating disorder. And they just kind of looked at me like, oh, and I was like, this is our healthcare system. Like, and by the way, I'm not against conventional medicine. It just, in that moment, I was like, okay, Renata, you're studying to be like, this is how you're going to be treating people. Like, these are your tools. And I think it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Like, I would never want to go back there again, but something inside me said, okay, like this, I'm glad this happened because I was going to go down a pathway that I probably wouldn't have been happy about. So I look at my mental health as a blessing in disguise. And I remember researching on the computer about alternative medicine. I never heard of naturopathic medicine. This was over 10 years ago. And like mental health wasn't something that was talked about or like, it wasn't a sexy topic. It was very still taboo, but I was like, I don't give a crap. Like, this is what I'm dealing with. Like I wasn't afraid to kind of share my story openly with the people I cared about and I could trust. And when I came across naturopathic medicine, I'm just like, oh, this feels right. I never seen a naturopath. I really didn't know much about naturopathic medicine. School cost like 30 G's a year with living. I didn't know how I was going to create that, you know, another 4 years of school. But I was like, something about it was calling me. And at that point in my life, I was like, you got nothing to lose, kid. You either explore this area or you just remain where you are, just doing what society expects you to do. Oh, really? But I thought you wanted to be a psychiatrist and now you're not. Like, natural medicine, like what's that? Like, you're a witch doctor? You're not even like, you're like, this is like woo-woo medicine. And like, part of me was like, honestly, I'm at my wit's end that I'll try anything. And that's usually when we start to seek alternative care, is when we're at our lowest points. And when I went to naturopathic medicine, I learned everything there was to learn about who I was again and why things happened and like healthier ways to heal. And also I learned or discovered that my depression, my anxiety, my eating disorder was just me being disconnected from who I was and what my truth was. Because I think a lot of the time these labels are sometimes slapped onto people and they identify that that's who they are. And what I recognize, I'm like, I'm not depression. I'm not anxiety. I'm not eating disorder. I've experienced these things. And that doesn't mean that that is me, right? Where a lot of people that I see will be like, oh, I'm depressed. I have depression, or they identify with that. And in naturopathic medicine, I learned it was just something I was experiencing because really I wasn't nourishing my body. I had toxic relationships. I was living a life that was completely not something I was in love with. So of course you're going to not be like a happy-go-lucky person. And then I was like, you know, I want people to realize that sometimes when you're going through anxiety or depression or something like that, it is because you've forgotten who you were or what you wanted or what's important to you. And you kept shooting yourself through life. I should do this. I should be doing this. I should go through this. Eventually you're not going to be happy, and that's normal. And I realized I'm not the only one going through this. Like, it's just not, like, it's not talked about in this light. So then when I started seeing patients, starting to connect them, like, oh yeah, you hate your job. You hate the people in your life, or they're not, you don't hate them, but they're maybe not the most positive people around you, or you're not nourishing yourself well. Of course you're going to feel this way. It doesn't mean that, like, you are depression. You're experiencing depression. You're experiencing anxiety because you've been disconnected from who you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love it. I'm just in here. I'm
Okay, because I can't see you, so I'm just like, oh. And so my commitment for people is I'm all about being who you are, because when you're not in alignment to who you are and what your purpose is and what your truth is, you're going to feel disconnected. And that might show up as a mental health issue. It might show up as another physical health issue. And it's something to recognize. And I took it as a freaking blessing. And I'm like, I'm so thankful this happened to me, because I was able to discover who I was and what my purpose was. And I would never take that back. Even though it was one of the most darkest, lowest points in my life, I'm so glad for that happening to me, because I took it as a way to start to tune in and listen. Because sometimes we just don't want to listen, and we don't want to see what's there because we're so afraid. But I'm like, staying where we are, like staying where I was back then, I was like, at this point, like, I had nothing to lose. And that was a big risk for me, just jumping into this whole world of this profession that I didn't know anything about. It wasn't like some, go-to thing. And then saying, I'll figure out my way. So I had to figure out schooling. I had to figure out my tuition. And there was another 4 years of my life. And I was just like, I'm going to give it my all, as if it's going to work out. And that was my mindset. And I didn't realize what I was doing mentally, but I just decided. And whatever we tell ourselves, we take action from. So if I'm like, you know what, Renata, you're going to figure it out. I didn't know how. I had no idea. I was terrified. But I just kept telling myself, everything's going to work out. I don't know how it's going to work out, but that was the moment. I call it my spiritual awakening, that I didn't know that's just how I labeled it. That I had to have faith in something beyond me, or else I was going to remain stuck. And that's literally how I got to where I am today. And I always say to people, it's sometimes scary to be reconnected to who you are and what you want, because of the way society tells us to be, or because we're afraid we're going to be judged, or because we're afraid that people are going to think we're weird. I always think I'm going to be judged because I'm weird, whatever. And I always say that's when you jump right in. Because if you feel terrified about that, that just means your identity is going to die off. Because your identity wants to keep you safe. It wants to keep you miserable. It likes knowing the comforts of, like, your sorrows, even though you hate experiencing it. And, sometimes looking at your mental health is like, what am I avoiding in my life? Or what am I resisting that it's just presenting this way, as a point to where you just need to, like, really wake up to who you are.
Yeah, it's so powerful just hearing, oftentimes we look at someone's journey and we must think, well, how do you know? Maybe it's just because you went to school for that, or maybe it's, it's because you've studied this. But, to see what you've gone through in your journey, to know that, what you have to share now has actually stemmed from your own experience of going through the system, seeing that it's broken, knowing that there has to be something, there has to be another way. And that's why I love connecting with women who have an authentic truth to, here's where I've been in my life, and this is what has inspired me to take action and to become this, kind of the deliverer of this message for future people who are going through the same thing. Because could you imagine that you may have gotten your message 5 years sooner? Where would you be? But again, we never look back and think, well, where would I be if this didn't happen? But it's funny because we had to go through all the steps in order to end up where we are today. And, kind of walk us through just you ended up obviously going through to become a naturopathic doctor, and you started a practice, and you saw clients through their their medical concerns and everything through a natural and holistic way. And then you've now shifted into kind of a new venture. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So for me, I took on a lot of personal development and coaching because there was a point still in my career, my anxiety came back. And it was maybe my first year of practice. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know anything and whatever. But really I was operating as this like naturopath that I was so afraid to share this like mind, body, spirit connection. Cause I'm like, no one's going to take me seriously. I made some decision. Like I just made that decision in my head. Like that was just what I decided for whatever reason. Cause that's what we do. We make decisions about things based on God knows what we think is going to happen or fears. And I remember I was sitting in my office the one day and I looked at my schedule and it was full. I felt really like, you think you'd be proud after 6 months of practice, you're like solidly booked. And I sat there and I felt so bloody empty. And I was like, I just don't want to tell people to stop eating gluten all day. Like I actually want to connect with people on such a deeper level. And I used to do that as an internet school at CCNM and like kind of coaching them through things, not even knowing I was, I guess, coaching, but people naturally gravitated towards me because they're like, I know you're going to be honest with me. And I know you're going to give me some perspective. So it was just from a little girl, people always came to me. It was like, I was the go-to person for advice or for guidance. And I really shut that off in my career and it was killing me. And while I built this, early successful practice, I was like, damn, this is not like I was like stunned sitting there and I was like, I want to give more and I really want to step inside. And I remember like quitting one of those placements and saying, no, I want to do more like this coaching, mind, body, soul work with people. Cause that's what's needed. Cause it's inauthentic to just say, yeah, your diet sucks without saying, you know what? Like you never say no, or you never honor what you want. And you wonder why your body's showing up with certain symptoms. Your body doesn't lie. And I was always fascinated with this realm and I really shut that off. And I knew it was needed. And then I really delved into my own personal growth. I got certified in yoga. I did a lot of training and coaching and in the personal development world and leadership training for the past 3 years that I was like, okay, Renata, you want people to speak their truth. Well, you're kind of not fully speaking your truth still. And it's so valuable because if your mindset is not in the right place, where people were coming to me and they're like, I would tell them, here, this is the beautiful treatment plan. This is exactly what needs to be done. And they wouldn't do it. And I started to recognize it was because they believed something. Like there was a limiting belief there to heal or to get better, or they'd be judged, or they would be missing out, or they wouldn't be able to sustain it, or, it's really not going to work. So if you come in there with that decision already, you're not going to take action. We only take action out of our thoughts. We have a thought and then we get an emotion. We only take action out of the emotion. So if you have a thought like, oh my God, this isn't going to work, that's fear. Guess what you're going to do? Nothing. You have an action of, oh my God, this is going to be like a game changer for me. You're excited. You have motivation. Guess what? You're going to take action. So I started realizing there was a mindset and I started practicing with patients and their success rates skyrocketed. And then I started doing personal development coaching with people. And when they said, I had no idea something I was struggling with for 10 years, just because you gave me some perspectives and mind tools and I saw some limiting beliefs that were running my life, I have a whole new way of looking at life. And I was like, this is my work. Mm. Like, I can't even explain to you what that's like on the other end when you see something that someone thought something was going a certain way. And when they recognize it was just a decision they made from a trauma at the age of 4 and it's limited them their entire life and they have this whole new view and then they take inspired action and things change in like a matter of days, you're just like, gosh, the world needs this. They really do. And I wish I had that at a younger age. That's why I do what I do. And I still practice as a naturopath, but I intervene both. And then I see just specifically coaching people, because if your mindset's not in the right place or you don't believe things are possible and you can't see, you have all these blind spots, you're going to be stuck. And it's really disheartening and you spin your wheels and you sabotage. And that's what breaks my heart, because we all have so much potential. We just have a lot of these mental blocks that we don't see that stop us.
We're like, do you feel now that even with your own mental wellness journey, like from the eating disorder and the depression, and has that now at this point fully recovered? And is there something that you feel was that turning point for allowing that to shift for you? Is it just the fact that you're so aware of it now and that you have tools, or was there a shifting point for you?
The eating disorder resolved like several years back. It was just me being reconnected to my body, where now I look at food as nourishment. I don't deprive myself of things. I am an active person, but like it's not like that obsessive nature I had. So I know what that, like the before and the after. And that was just kind of like what works for my body, what doesn't work for my body, and just honoring my body and looking at food as nourishment is not like, oh my God, punishment or deprivation or like a reward. And it's like, it's crazy. I've had probably the best relationship with my food and my body than I've ever had in my life. Mm-hmm. And I never thought that was going to be possible. Mm-hmm. And then the depression, the anxiety, I usually get anxious if I'm making another breakthrough, if it's my career or my personal life. I might have like, oh my God, like, I don't know if I should be doing this. What are they going to think of me? But I have, like, I always reference back, like, Renata, you're just breaking through a new level. When you start to grow and you start to kind of like peel a layer back, that's normal. It's just part of your old identity that's no longer serving you. It's going to come back and be like, oh, you suck, or like, this isn't going to work. And I have a really good mindset being like, oh, that's just my fear. It's just doing its job. It's doing a really good job. And the depression, no, I have moments of burnout. And I think sometimes people get burnout and depression and anxiety confused. So if you're like burnt out, you're not going to be feeling motivated either. So sometimes the two are collapsed when people have something called what's adrenal fatigue. Mm-hmm. Or when they're in like the flight and fight stage, like go, 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 that can mimic signs of anxiety, and the burnout can mimic signs of depression. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I might, quote unquote, feel a little unmotivated, and I'm like, you're just burned out because you're trying to like save the world in a day. Like, mm-hmm. Girl, like chill out. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's definitely not anywhere to the degree as if it was before. And I recognize I'm so in tune with my body that I would say it's a full recovery, but hey, look, if I go back to operating the way I do and I'm not honoring my truth, I will start to feel depressed, maybe anxious. And I don't know, maybe if it came to a terrible out of control situation, maybe the eating disorder will pop up again. I can't say for sure, but it's like, I already see subtle signs, especially when it comes to depression, that I'm like, you're burning out, Renata, mm-hmm. or you're not doing something that makes you happy and you're being like a grumposaurus. So I look at it as more of like how I feel is more of a guide to like what's maybe out of alignment in my inner world that I'm now doing in my outer world.
I love it. That is, I love this interview because I always feel like it's half interview, half like motivational speaking, and you're just taking us into this whole space of what you went through, and then really awesome steps on how to kind of collaborate those two. And so, I mean, this is something now that you offer. Like, you offer one-on-one coaching. You love to work with women who are starting their own wellness business or soul-led, wellness entrepreneurs, as you call them, or wellnesspreneurs, I think you call them. And I know that that's something that is you're so passionate about now, is really working with people to help them merge their God-given talent and their gift and what lights them up, and how to create a soul-led business using what their true authentic gifts are, and helping them get through those mindset blockages. So is there any kind of final messages that you would want to leave for our audience when it comes to going through a mental health journey? Because we might, we might have viewers, sorry, my eyes watering, I'm not crying, although you were that good. We might have viewers who are just, they're in the deepest part of their mental health journey right now, or maybe they are just got their diagnosis today and they're thinking, they're on YouTube going, oh, what do I do? I need help. You know, depending on where people are on the spectrum, what are kind of those final nuggets that you want to leave for our audience in terms of the hope or the healing or the process, or, you know, what do you got? Although you've
First
already
of all, if you want to change, you have to have the willingness to change. Change, we like the idea of change, but it's scary. So we sometimes just don't take action. So I say jump in full force, like it's only going to go one way. And have a team of people around you. Like I had a Reiki person, a homeopath, naturopath. I got my acupuncture. I had my hormones checked. I had my gut assessed. Like I did personal development. I did my yoga. Like I did I was like, I am doing this. And when you have a team of people and your friends and your family, like you got to be around people who are going to support you and who are going to show you the way. It's scary doing it on your own. I couldn't have done this on my own. Like I had the resilience and I had the trust and I had the faith, but I'm saying like we tend to do things on our own and we're just going to spin our wheels because we have blind spots. So seek everything out because you never know what it is. And it's usually a combination of things when it comes to your mental well-being. And that's why I'm so passionate about people having their own gifts. And that's why I fully support people, like do what your gifts are because someone needs that in the world. Like someone needs that. If I didn't have my army of 20 people, you know, at moments, I wouldn't be who I was today. So we're so it's like, don't hide that. And also explore all things. Don't just try one thing and be like, it didn't work. You know, we do that. Oh, it didn't work. No, like commit to it the way it's designed. And you're going to get progress and like try this thing. And so don't give up. Just don't try just two things. I tried hundreds of supplements, different remedies, different things. Cause I was like, and it's like, I'm still evolving as a person still to this day. So it's not like you just reach a point where you're like in this bliss point. It's normal to feel lows too in your life. There's some days where I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed today. That's normal. There's some days where you're like, I'm so angry. Like that's normal. So it's not about just not feeling things and like those low emotions, I want to say either. It's like, you're a human being with all these emotions. Your emotions are a tool, and always ask yourself, why do I feel this way? What's this trying to tell me? I know I kind of rambled from one to the other, but.
No, that's amazing. I'm so appreciative that, you know, you've come on here and you've not only just shared your own personal journey, but, you know, you shared with us how to actually make those true, honest steps that are going to be not only impactful, but I can tell even just through your journey, long lasting and making that shift real. And it's been really fun listening to you.
Thank you.
It always is, because I feel excited just after ending this interview, because you know it really does go to show how important not only our gifts are, but our journey is, and that message is, and how that message was given, you know, for those who suffer with a mental health illness. It's actually been given to the strongest people, because you know we are the ones that are able to then move forward and share that message to be able to help other people heal as they're starting their journey. So I've never met a personal trainer who works with the physical health who hadn't started somewhere on their physical health journey, and that's why they've decided to become a personal trainer to help other people who are just beginning. So it's the same way, you know, with those who are now sharing aspects of mental wellness and mental health. We all started with our mental health journey at some point. So thank you, Renata. It has been so great just chatting with you today and having this interview and sharing this interview. And for those who feel very aligned with what Dr. Renata has been sharing today, she does have some coaching client spots available. She works one-on-one online to help you move through your stuff. And I don't know if you want to share a little bit about what you offer with your one-on-one coaching. We're going to pop up all of your information in the credits, so you'll be able to find out how you can reach Renata. But I don't know if you want to maybe further explain a little bit about what you offer.
Yeah, so it's basically, I say I'm coaching my previous self, and it's like all the women who are out there who have this deep down desire. They want to change the world. They know it's what they're meant to do. They might just be scared. They don't know how it's possible. And I'm there to help you build a profitable business that not only you love, but a life that you love too. So that's why I really like coaching with. That brings me great joy. And I'm all about having everyone bring their A game to this world because we need it.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you again. And please connect with Dr. Renata via her. We've got your Facebook, we've got your website up here, we've got your Instagram, and follow her on Instagram because she is hilarious and has the best posts. I love watching your posts. And then Dr. Renata also has partnered with one of her best friends and other naturopathic doctors, Jennifer Lococo, and they have the Wellness Witches, which is also a super fun Instagram page, and you guys have tons of workshops that you offer in the Toronto area. So if you're in Toronto, Canada, then you can attend those workshops live. Otherwise, thank you again, and thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me, Jennifer. I love you. Thank you for doing this. People need this.
Oh, well, you know what? This is our journey to share. So I'm so excited that I'm able to share it with such powerful women like yourself. So, all right, everyone, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you get notified every time there is a new episode that drops. Have an awesome day, and we will see you next time.